never be any public show of glory without a private altar. So, and
I told you.
Mama, good evening. Good evening, Mama.
Good evening. Good evening. When I see you, I'm just reminded of God's grace, God's faithfulness. God is so amazing. Oh, good evening. Can you all see us? Is anything frozen? Are we good? Because we're going to hit the ground running. Reverend Jerry, people have been typing all sorts. What God cannot do does not exist. They've been shouting. Papa Jingle House, Dubai, Canada. You see them? That's how we meet and we roll every Tuesday. Yes, they are hailing you. I don't want them to take my time, so but we're so honored to have you here today. Thank you, thank you. I trust Pastor Eno is good and the children.
They are doing great. They are doing very great.
Thank you. So, we kick off. Thousands of people all over the world, they participate in your morning prayer program on social media. But little is known about your personal life. Can you tell us, who is Jerry Eze?
Okay, so there's a lot to say. I don't know where to begin from, but I will attempt to begin from somewhere. So Jerry. Jerry was born many years ago, several decades ago, and I knew the Lord as a child. I got born again as a little child. I was born to a single mother. Apparently, I've told that story a couple of times. So my mom was a single parent, and I saw what it meant for me to have a prayerful mom who literally gave her all for us. I gave her all for her children, and all that. So I would readily admit that my prayer life, or what people celebrate now as prayer, actually began with my mother, because it was my mom. I saw her pray in the middle of the night. I saw her pray for my siblings when they were not behaving well. I saw her literally cry. She was everything. She was both the breadwinner. She was both the prayer warrior. She was both our defender. She was both, because a couple of times, you go out there and people taunt you. People say things. Where's your father? Go and bring your father. So my mom would readily come up and say, don't mind them, I'm everything, and all of that. So I remember one of those episodes, that took place. I saw my mother, was very strong, defensive, encouraged me and all of that. But a few moments later, I was going to find my mom, crying in a corner, and all of that. So, and that day I celebrated the courage, that she had, to be strong for us, but yet go back again and break down and cry. So that's the kind of home I grew up in. So I grew up knowing the Lord. I grew up very early, being exposed to the supernatural a little too early. So there was this local church where we grew up, because I came from a very poor home. So we had this very local church, where, Christianity was very real for us. It wasn't, so I had a mentor at the time, she's of blessed memory now, so she was my pastor's wife at the time, so she was the one, who exposed me to every single thing I knew about God. Every single thing I knew about God, she was talking about God. She spoke so much about the supernatural. She spoke so much about hearing from God. I remember what people now say about hearing from. I remember many years ago, I used to tell myself, the day I will hear the voice of God, the day I will hear the voice of God, I will lie on the floor and I got to match me, So because I just felt like it was possible. But this woman just every day I sat on her teaching every Wednesday. Wednesdays are usually fasting and prayers. So she spoke so much about God. She spoke about her relationship with the Holy Spirit. She spoke so much. And then I sit back and I say, how do people so and I literally saw her manifest the gift of the Spirit, So I saw her talk, people walking and not knowing anything about the people, she begins to, speak prophetically about their destinies. And I'm like, can a human being ever be that? I saw her teach the and she was so grounded in the word. I saw her pray, and if she prays, you feel like, okay, she's all prayerful. If she and then again, the only thing that she did I couldn't do was that she sang a lot, So I mean, that I just saw everything all in her. So she began to teach me the ways of God. And now, the thing is that she did not deliberately sit me down and started teaching me, but I just grew in hunger. That's the only life we knew. That's the only life we knew. So, and I just grew in hunger towards God, watching what she did, watching how she. So, I literally grew up in the church. I grew up, in the church. I grew up reading the Bible in the church. I grew up, but I remember this one time. It was fasting and prayers in the church. As a little boy, I wasn't 10. I wasn't 10 at the time. I probably was just going to turn 10. So I just come to church. There was no one in church, So I brought a mat, this local mat. So I put it under a bench, I put it there, and I just began to say to the Holy Spirit, because then she kept speaking to us about the Holy Spirit. The woman spoke to us so much about it. I said to the Holy Spirit, you know what? I want to see you. I just want to feel this thing. Is it real? Is it? So I know that I have a very curious mind. And I knew that if I didn't get the reality of God, I'm one of those that were going to walk away from God. So, and I just asked. So that day, I didn't know what happened. I still remember it like yesterday. I first slept off. I didn't know what I slept off. I was awake, and I will call that my first major encounter with God. So I didn't know whether I was awake or was sleeping. I can't remember. So I had this small book where I usually write down everything I learned from the scripture at the time. This is very strange. This is the first time I'm telling this story very publicly, because it sounds very unbelievable. So, and then while I dozed off, I can't call it, how Apostle Paul say, whether in the spirit, I do not know, whether in the. So, and I saw this being walking where I was. I saw this being walking where I was, and then took the book. Now, I remember that there were things I did not write in that book, and took the book and started writing something. So I just kept looking at the man. So he just kept writing some things in the book. So finished writing it, gave me back the book, and walked away. So as soon as he walked away, I woke up, took the book, opened it, and I discovered the things I did not write, written with my own handwriting. So, and they were written, God is going to use you, so I can't be rude to myself in that way, and I'm is going to use you. So it should be to me. So, but I was writing, the writer was God is going to use you. You're going to be a voice. So I can't remember exactly, but it was just speaking about nations and all of that. Now, prior to that time, my mother never allowed me, to play with other children. My mother just had this, she never allowed. I used to think that she was paranoid, because she was a single parent. So apparently she was seeing my destiny. So my mother, anytime my mother found me playing with the other children, how I know my mom was coming is how the other children begin to scamper. So when the children begin to run, I know my mom is around. My mom is our next thing. She will hit me. My mother beats me blue black. And she hits me for the things I didn't do. All she kept telling me, she said, there's a grace on your life. She said it in her own way in vernacular. I said, there's something about you. You can't be like other children. I couldn't play football like them. I couldn't hang out with them. I couldn't do the things they did. Or my mother just kept saying there was something about you. So I guess my molding process in becoming who I was. God surrounded me with great women, and this is the reason why I do not play with women. So God surrounded me. One was my mom, and one was this mentor that is of blessed memory right now. So they were the ones that laid the building blocks. This is how I was introduced to the supernatural. Up until the point that, then in that my local church, they used to bring mad people to us, stark reading. They'll bring. So you can't say you are anointed if you've not proven you're anointed. So, and that's the rated. So it's not these days that you have every day Tom, Dick, and Harry carry Bible. I'm called of God. I'm called of God. So you must prove your calling. And they used to use mad people. Mad people is with mad people that you prove that there's something, like you have a relationship with God. Because I think that the demons these days are a little digital and contemporary. So they hide people. Then mama, time you had demons that if you didn't pray and you came to confront a demon, the demon will look you into the eye and say, look at you, that were really very vocal at the time. But right now, I don't know whether they've adjusted or maybe they just feel like these guys. But at the time, they will look you into the eye. So these were days when those who were working for God were literally be on fire. You just have to be on fire. So I grew up with that kind of rigorous Christianity. That's how we grew up. We grew up with rigorous Christianity where midnight prayers were not an option. So sometimes when people say, over the years, for the past, 15 years of my life, I cannot remember any nights that came and I slept all through the night till the morning. So it's been my life. So I pray through the night, even now that NSPPD has started. So some people see me in the morning and go like, oh, Pastor Jerry comes out every morning. I do not begin my day in the morning. I begin my day at night. So I literally pray through the night. And then by the time you know what is happening, is already morning. I take a shower and then hit for the prayers. I know that every great move of God must have an energizer. You must have there can never be any public show of glory without a private altar. So, and this is exactly what it is for me. So this is how Jerry grew up. So, but I must confess that at some point in my journey, because we came from a poor home, I wanted a better life. I wanted a better life, and I must admit that we had a lot of spirituality, where I was groomed, but there was a lot of poverty. So everyone around us were poor, so they didn't hold. I wanted something better for my life, so they held no attraction for me. So I knew I wanted my life. I wanted more. So at some point, I knew that my zeal with God, my life with everything began to wane a little bit. When I got into the later part of my secondary school, and then when I got into the university, I just didn't want to do this anymore. I just wanted to be a very good Christian, and I just didn't want to get involved with God. But I remember second year in the university, I was in the class and I didn't know what came over me, but I would just call it a God moment. The lecturer was teaching. Nobody spoke to me. Nobody. And then I remember the song. There's a song we used to sing many years ago. Sometimes Jesus, you filled my heart. I was lonely. You gave me joy that is lasting all my life. And then the other verse of the song says, sometimes I have put others before you. I even try to ignore you when you call my name. I just knew that song came back to me more than ever before. I broke. I began to cry. And the Spirit of God began to speak to me about my life, reminded me about what my mother said, how God was going to use you to the nations, how you were going to be a voice, how you were going to, So I just realized, and at the time, God had already provided a kind couple in church to train me through school. So that I went through school. It was actually a couple that I met in church that decided to pay my way through school. So they gave me the best of life. They treated me like their own child. They gave me, I lived off campus. So they paid everything. They treated me like I looked like I was from a rich home, basically, but it was this kind couple that really helped me, So, and that's how I did. So Jesus began to, the Lord began to remind me about my life and everything. So I walked away that day and went back to, I would call it a moment of rededication, a moment of realignment, moment of finding focus and purpose again, for living and all that. And that was where I reconnected to God. I found my life again. I found my bearing again. And I began to move again with God. So And that was what I did. So then I became a pastor in school, and but then again, even after I left university, I still didn't like. I didn't want to do ministry. I said I believed that I could do ministry and still do my job. So I started working with the World Bank. So from working with World Bank, and I got another one. I started working with the United Nations. I just felt like I could just do this and not, I would still do ministry. So I still had ministry by the side, but I still remember it was in 2009, I believe, December 2009, when the Spirit of God was asking. So I was working with the UNFPA. So the Lord began to speak to me. I just, about resigning my job at the UN. So it was very hard. I was asking God, how am I going to resign my job? And the Lord kept speaking about my future. The Lord kept talking to me about I don't know, but the heaviness and the pressure. So I called my wife. My wife was living in London at the time. So I called my wife and I said to her, this is what the Holy Spirit is saying to me, because I was literally paying all the bills from Nigeria, to my wife, because she was in school at the time. So she told me that she knew that a time like this would come, that she's always known that a time like this will come. So if this is the time for it to happen, I should go ahead and resign, that God will take care of the rest. And I made a simple prayer to God, and I said to God, I don't want to steal money. I don't want to be that pastor who will put my eyes on what you don't want. I want to please you. I want to be sure making you happy. I say, please, all I'm asking for is, can you put food on my table? Just don't let me beg anybody. Don't let me go and, ask people for, I remember my family a little bit. So there were days when we had soup, we had no Gary. So, we literally had to go to beg our neighbors for Gary, and all of that. So there were days they had, and they said they didn't have, and all of that. So that kind of pictures, I told God, I don't want to beg anybody. Just help me. If you can help me, Lord, if you can put food on my table, I will serve. I didn't want fame. I didn't and this is me speaking from my heart, not because I'm in a meeting. All I just wanted was, God, I wanted to serve you. Just put food on my table. That's all I'm asking for. And the Spirit of God did not just put food on my table. It gave me more than I asked. And so that is simply my journey to where I am right now. So one major thing that has, brought me to where I am right now is, I was taught to always pray. My mom, I saw from my mother to always pray. I was taught revelational prayer. I was exposed to the supernatural very early in my life. That kind of relationship with God where you do not just talk to God. There must be an evidence out of your walk with God. So oftentimes people know me as someone who just says, there just has to be an evidence. We can't spend 1 hour praying and there will be no evidence. We can't speak to cancer and there will be no evidence. So it's not me trying to say who I am. That's my identity. That's who I am. That's how I was raised. I was raised to know that if you speak to God, there just has to be a tangibility of your relationship with God. So, and also in that place where I saw a lot of, because every time I saw brokenness, both from my mom, and so I'm a very broken person, So, and I do not think God will, anyone who is not consistent in their brokenness, especially with God does not find you malleable. You might have seasonal visitations from God, seasonal visitations. You just see, there's a manifestation that is seasonal. But I believe that brokenness is the bedrock of consistent manifestation of your life, because a broken vessel, God can mold. You come out today, God say, don't do it this way, this is where. So brokenness I'm talking about is beyond shedding tears, is beyond that. All of that might be manifestations of how broken you are, but that's exactly, it's not brokenness as it were. So altogether, that is what it is. So over time, God has taught me consistency. Over time, God has taught me to take what is important. Now, we are in that place right now where there's a lot of aesthetics about Christianity. There's a lot of the glitz and glamour, and God has never forgotten. Everyone around me knows that I am still very old school, with prayers. I'm still very old school with consecration. I'm still very old school with this is the way we have to do it. I'm still very old school with some things, big things. I'm like, okay, you know what, this is our old school method and all of that. The appearance might be contemporary, but in my walk with God, it is still very, extremely, very old school. So I don't know what I've been able to talk about myself a little bit.
My God. Ah, I was just trying to fight back tears. So you invited me to preach for you some time ago. And
Yes, Mama.
not only was the building jammed, the outside, the streets, everywhere. How did you get from no food on your table? You're going to answer that question for me, because I'm taking you to another thing, another area of your life. Because some people just want to start. Have you ever failed before? How? And I remember while I was preaching, or in the course of the preaching, you, at a point, you laid on the floor. I'm so used to that. I'm also so, you were on the floor. We were in tears. How did you get here, Reverend Jerry?
Mama, I cannot. I wish sincerely when people ask me this kind of question, and I'm just trying to let them know, I can't tell my story. It's just simply of grace. I literally saw God, move me from. I can't even tell. Like this, when you came, was pre NSPPD. So because a lot of people started knowing Pastor Jerry with NSPPD. So when you came was pre NSPPD. I've always been that one who believes that my journey without God is extremely very useless. So I'm in that space, all the time, like you said, I'm in that space all the time when I am constantly. I'm constantly grateful to God. I have never done anything. I can't. I'm sitting down on top of my head. I'm trying to run through my mind. What are the strategies I used? What's the template I used? What did I do to bring me to where I am? And sincerely, I cannot think of one major thing that I did. But I do not know of any vessel that God has set on fire that he does not call the world to come and watch that vessel burn. So oftentimes our strategy is to call the people to us, but not knowing that if God can work on you, you will be an attraction for the people to come. So what I just found out was the place where God was teaching. I'm still learning. Have I failed? Many times. Many times I've failed, even in trying to love God the way at some point I just wanted to make God, love God, but I tried with my strength many times. I tried to be a better. I didn't try to be a better person. I tried to speak, live a good life and all that. Especially, when I was in the university, I found myself failing many times. I found myself not, come up to that. I remember when I used to struggle with my prayer life, days when I wanted to pray, my mind would drift. My mind would just keep drifting from left, right. So I remember asking my pastor's wife many times. I said, how can you pray without your mind drifting? Because my mind will just visit everywhere. It's so bad that I could be on my knees praying, even if I'm standing, even if I'm walking around, I probably will move around everywhere. Like I would it's so terrible that I could be speaking in tongues, and for 40 minutes you're speaking in tongues, your mind is moving from pillar to post. And I'm just like, but I knew that God would never, the Bible says, let not that man that is unstable think he can receive anything from God. I knew that kind of heart will not receive anything from God. So those were times where I wondered, like a young man who's coming up, who was coming up at the time. I struggled to keep my heart pure. I struggled to come to that point where I could really say that the entirety of my heart was clean, before God. I had those moments, and all of that. So, but through it all, I knew that God, there's a song many years ago. In fact, yesterday, was it yesterday or day before yesterday? I was sharing with my people. Okay, that's on Saturday, actually, on Saturday. So I was sharing with a minister and a pastor in my church where we're going for jogging in the morning. So I told them that there were songs that kept me while I was in the university, come and make my heart your home, and come and make. So the songs that were from Women of Faith, there were songs I sang again and again, all that mattered to me. And God kept saying to me, no matter the sacrifice you give me, your heart is very important. So I knew that in trying to keep my heart of offense, of anything, I went through that place where God had to work a lot on my heart. So in the place of my heart, I failed many times in trying to build a congregation. I failed many times, So there were days. So I'm going to share this experience. So while we're still running a fellowship, there were days when we started having a decline. So I remember the chief usher in my fellowship at the time came and said to me, "Oh, Pastor Jerry, I think that there's a dark cloud that is stopping people from coming here, and they've quoted one man of God and all of that." And I told him, I said, "There's no dark cloud here." There's no dark cloud here. And what I found out was God testing my consistency and my heart, whether it was about the numbers or about a heart that wants to serve him. So this is what it is. At the time, and up until now, anyone who knows me knows this. If you bring me anywhere and there are 10 people I'm going to talk to, I will talk to them the same way. I will minister like I am talking to thousands of people. If you find me on NSPPD, I'm going to pray that way, where I know that I have millions of people watching me. If you find me praying in my church when there are a few thousands who are there, I will pray as if that I am on NSPPD. So God had to teach me it's about my service, it's not about the numbers. So I had that also. I had challenges with that. But as soon as I removed my heart from it, and I'm a very consistent person. And I would also say that part of it also is that I think I work hard. So sometimes I do not allow, laziness, a little bit around me, and I don't like my people to be lazy, and all of that. So pretty much, I think I have failed, a little bit many times in consecration in the past. I have also failed, to be able to just a few things about church, learning from people, making the wrong choices as it has to do with relationships, and all of that. But all of that, God used it to mold me who I have become right now.
Oh, wow. Thank you so very much for being so vulnerable, because this is what we do here in this tribe. We ask questions from people that are at the top, on their way to the top. We want them to show us the speed bumps on the way so we can get there. How did you meet your wife, Eno?
Okay, so it's interesting how I met my wife. So I had gone to a fellowship to preach in the university. I'd gone to a fellowship to preach in the university, and I had just finished ministering, and they were now calling the leaders of the fellowship, the leaders of how will I call it, sisters fellowship, the sisters department. They were calling this so, and then they mentioned her name, and then I just felt this strong witness. This was your wife. I hadn't seen her face at the time. So, and then I now called one he's a pastor in my church now, he's a doctor, Dr. DK. So I called him. He's a member of that fellowship at the time. So I called him. I said, tell me about this young woman that is in your fellowship. So he was like, she worships, and when she worships, she cries, and all of that. So I liked a lot of people. I liked someone who could cry at the time. So I just said to myself, okay, I love it, So, and then I started asking to speak with her. So, and then I spoke with her, and then she had this very bubbly life, around her and all of that. So I'm not sure I spoke with her for 2 days. Now, like I said, I'm very old school. I mean, God forgive me what I did. So 2 days after speaking with her, I was walking her to her hostel. So, and I said to her, the Holy Spirit, the Holy Spirit said I should marry you.
Woo,
So
woo.
I didn't toast. I wasn't romantic about it, and all of that. I just told her the Holy Spirit said I should marry you and all of that. She left me there and ran away. So I didn't see her for days, or was it even weeks, and all of that, So I didn't see her. But when she came back, she came back to tell me that she took out time to pray. Well, she didn't want it. She said that she wanted a taller person, she didn't want someone of my height, and all of that. Not like I'm short, too. I'm just the perfect size,
No,
So,
you're good, you're handsome, and you're tall in the spirit, very tall in the spirit.
and she said she wanted a taller thing, but then again, she said went and prayed, and God said, that we could do it together. So I guess we dated for like 5 years or 6 years, and then we've been married for like 15 years.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Thank you so very much. Have you ever been betrayed before?
Oh my goodness. What did you say? Betrayal many times over.
And how did
And
you handle it?
one major thing the Spirit of God has continued to speak to me about is about my heart. So I try to guard my heart. Everyone who knows me knows very well. I'm not trying to keep up with the Joneses with what I'm saying, but everyone who knows me knows that I am a very forgiving person. I forgive a lot. So I don't have a problem with people who are very distant betraying you, but people who are very close, people who you call family, and then betraying you, it's a very hurtful thing. So,
Or friend?
but yeah, a friend, yes, betraying you, that's very hurtful. So I've had my fair share of betrayals. It was heartbreaking, but through it all, the Spirit of God will say to me, okay, and this is what I say to my wife: my heart is full of destinies of people. It doesn't have space to keep an offense. So I know that every minute of my life counts for somebody. I am not living for myself anymore. I'm not living for what makes me happy anymore. So every minute of my life counts. So I don't have space to be upset with anybody. I don't have space to be angry with anybody. I don't have space to, so what usually happens is that for the time that you're upset, if you're close by, well, everyone who is close to me knows that if you offend Pastor Jerry, he will call you and tell you. So that's it. I usually will say it, if I know I'm going to say the wrong thing, I won't talk. So I try not to say the wrong thing. So, and that's exactly what it is. So I learned I have lived a life of making sure there's no bitterness in my heart. So, and I can't stand bitter people. I can't stand offenses. So, and anyone who will be mightily used of God, there can never be a manifestation of extraordinary grace side by side with a bitter heart. It does not work. It does not work. So if God must use you mightily, you must make sure there are no offenses in your heart. No offenses, no offenses. Being who I am today, it comes with a lot of backlash, because a lot of people, why should it be him? Why should it be him? It comes with a lot of backlash, and all of that. Some people don't like that God is using you to do what you're doing and all of that. But through it all the Spirit of God just keeps telling me all the time, you're going to walk in love, walk in love, walk in love, walk in love. So I'm in that space where all I am doing all the time is to find more reasons to love people, embrace them, care for them, pray for them, and all that. So, and apparently, maybe that is why I usually tell my people, I say, I don't even know why God keeps pouring out his grace on me, just because I don't respond in bitterness to some of the things that people do, to me. So, how I respond, to summarize it, is that I make sure there's no space for bitterness in my heart.
Thank you so very much. How do you handle criticism? Have you been criticized before?
I don't understand. When I've been criticized before, I'm in the face of people every morning. So I'm in the face of people every morning. and I am on social media. And so the truth is that they have criticized, they will say too many things. People come up and say, what God cannot do does not exist. What is, so I just have a lot of people, too many criticisms. People say this and all of that. The truth of the matter is that half of the time, right, if it is coming from outside, half of the time, I try not to pay attention to it. I try as much as possible not to pay attention to it and all of that. The day you made up your mind to be used by God the way you are being used by God, that's the day where everybody feel like they have a right to your life. They have a right to say whatever they like against you. They have a right. Some people will chase clout. The only way to become popular, to talk about you, to criticize you and all of that, they chase clout. But as far as I'm concerned, it's only those who are doing something that will be talked about. So, and the truth of the matter is that, look at how I handle criticism. If I hear a criticism, I just ask myself, is there a value in what this person is saying? Half of the time, people who are surrounding us may not be able to say the truth to us, because half of the time all they sing is your praise. That is those who surrounding yourself. Because I try not to. I tell my people after every meeting we have, I say, okay, so let's have a feedback. Let's have a correct feedback on this, and all of that. So, and we don't play to the gallery, because me, myself, I will not play to the gallery with you. So you can't play the gallery with me as well. So, but the critics, they are the ones that give us value. They sometimes they give you value, and then sometimes go like, okay, really, is that what they're saying and all of that? Okay, next time this is what I'm going to do differently and all that. But there are those who theirs is just born out of wickedness. They are born out of wickedness. They are born out of they are born out of the fact that you've not come to bow to them. They've come out of the fact because you've not fitted into mold or who they believe. They prayed for revival came, but they just don't like the person, what it is, who it is God is beheading. We pray for things. God, let there be a move, let there be outbreak of miracles, and then it is happening, and all of that. So I have tried to handle it the best way I can. Half of the time I don't pay attention. The truth is that I don't go out. That's actually the truth. I don't go out. It's either you find me, at the altar of fire, or you find me at the office or in my house, or you find me at a program that I'm attending. The truth is that I don't go out. That's the truth. I don't go out. And I can tell you, my friends my circle is very small. That is if I have one. My circle is.
Okay. What's your view about domestic violence? Male or female?
I do not understand how someone who has a walk with God, would actually raise the reason why we're talking about this, especially among believers, is that we're having many unregenerated, undiscipled believers. We are having a lot of people who want to keep their carnality and at the same time confess Jesus. We have a lot of people who, Apostle Paul will say, I die daily. Now we have a lot of people who do not die, who are not yet dead to the flesh. Why should I be preaching to a man who is born again, who goes to church about domestic violence? Whatever that made you come to the point where you even begin to raise your hand, that raising your hand is the climax of what was going on in the inside of you. And so oftentimes I have seen us try to stem the tide to say, men, don't hit your wife, it is wrong, and all of that. Whereas that is, in great. But I think that one thing that we must first of all begin to check is the spiritual health of these men. What is there? We check their spiritual health and check their mental health. Some of them are not well. When you are saying, that's the truth. When you are saying, don't hit a woman, and all of that. You are not even, are you telling somebody who is well not to hit a woman? Because they are not well. That's the only life they know. That they have a job and they can do a job effectively does not mean that they are mentally sound, and they go to work and they come back. Some people have serious mental health issues. And so, both their spiritual health, both their mental health, we must help people. And oftentimes, people are molded by a lot of experiences they've been through. So, all of these things contribute to the fact. So, when you tell them don't hit a woman, they don't even understand what you're talking about. This should be a way of life and we haven't addressed some core matters that are wrong with them. So for me, it's not even a subject. Apostle Paul will speak about sexual immorality and say, let this not be once mentioned amongst you. I don't even think it is something we should ever even talk about. It should not be mentioned among us people that this man, a born again Christian, hits his wife and all of that. And this is what I said. I even said it in a meeting on Saturday. And I said, I have a daughter who is in secondary school, and she gets married tomorrow. You raise your hand and hit the daughter I gave you, raise your hand and hit your head. I must inform you and I must let you know under God, with everything I have, that she has a father, so, and that's just it's in meeting. So because the more people feel like you can overpower a woman by hitting her, and all of that, and then nothing happens to you. You go and share it with your friend. This is how I shut up my wife, and your friend will go and try it. So your friend should hear that you hit a woman, and your friend should also hear what happened to you after you hit the woman, so that the cycle of the story will be complete. So that next time you're trying to do that, you will know that there's another side, to doing it as well. So this is really what I think.
Thank you so very much, Reverend Jerry. You've addressed Christians. This is a global tribe, and there are people that are Muslims.
Right.
That are in an abusive relationship. There are people that don't even go to church, they don't go to the mosque, So we're being watched around the world. And you've spoken about the man. And I've had cases where the woman was the abuser. So please address those two also.
So, and this is what it is. If a woman is being abusive in a relationship, first of all, if you are in an abusive home, I'm going to say this, and with all due respect to everyone, but I want to say that your functionality be very minimal. If you are, your life value will be very low. Your productivity will almost become abysmal. This is what Pastor Jerry will cancel. If it's becoming more abusive than it is becoming more loving, can you take a few steps backward? This is not asking you to break your marriage or something, just so that, this is it. A lot of people, after they've left their marriage, will now realize how much broken, how much mentally sick they have become. So, whether man or woman, when domestic abuse or whatever it is, even if it is, we talk about domestic abuse, there's verbal abuse. People verbally shred people every day. You have someone in your life who is talking down on you, who is saying all of these things.
Work, in church, mentors, mentees, psychological.
Yes. For me, I say take a break from them. Take a break from them. Take a break from them, even if it is whatever it is. You know what? Let me take a break from this. People are toxic. People are toxic. We have toxic people everywhere. Take a break from them. Just can I just take a break? And because the truth is that you will continue in this, and you will recognize yourself on the long run. You will continue in this, and you will not understand when you will start acting like them. You will start becoming as verbally abusive as they are. You will not even take a break from them. So for me, whether you're a believer or you're Muslim, whoever you are in an abusive environment, the first thing I will want you to do is just to take a break. Take a break. Reassociation. Take a break. Don't try to fix the situation being in the situation. Take a break from the situation. Whoever it is, whether make a break first, and then from there, When you are out, the soundness of your mind is fully achieved, then you will know what is the next step that I'm going to take. You can't fix abuse being in abuse. It can never work. You can never fix any form of abuse being in the abuse itself. Yes.
Woo! Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so very much, because you are first a human being before you are a Christian or a Muslim
Yes.
or a wife
Yes.
or a